man. I've traveled twice with him. No, once or twice to Thailand with him. But anyway, fucking crazy stories, man.
He shared some.
He left
All
me
right.
like he left me responsible to friggin' students, man. Friggin' maniac. Just left me in Thailand by myself with these guys.
All right, man.
Oh,
So welcome to the Parley, Real People, Real Talk. Guest today is none other than Sifu/crew Joey De Los Reyes, Chief Instructor and owner of Combat Arts Trade Academy in Mississauga. Joey, welcome so much. Just give me a quick introduction for those people who may not know you that might be listening to this.
Yes. So like Mark was saying, I founded and operate the Combat Arts Training Academy based out of Mississauga in Canada here for 20 plus years. I've been training for martial arts for over 30 years, quite a bit, but still not quite a bit. And pretty much covered the gambit of various martial arts and combat systems like boxing, Muay Thai, Savate Boxe Français, Jeet Kune Do, Krav Maga, Kali, combat submission wrestling, judo, and defensive tactics through the PPCT management systems or the Warriors systems, and different self-defense systems, and then some various strength conditioning stuff too. So that's pretty much in summary. I've been lucky to work a lot of security stuff. I've pretty much done everything in the security industry except for electronic surveillance. So I've been able to work the door as a private investigator for retail, commercial, and also for private. It's pretty interesting stuff in the background for martial arts and self-defense and security.
So one of the reasons why I really wanted to have you talk, Joey, is I'm trying to use this as a platform for people that, like I said, that's why I say real people, real talk. I want people to know how successful people are successful, what are the commonalities they have and share. And basically for people to also hear, what it takes and what you go through to do that, right? And one of the things that I've always, not to be a fanboy, but you are an inspiration and you are somebody that motivates me. One of the things that you told me once that absolutely stuck in my head was you told me once that you were sitting in a classroom and you just had this moment where you're like, what am I doing here? I'm just gonna go do what I want to do. And that takes a lot of balls, especially when you have expectations from family and stuff like that. I just want you to kind of just touch on that and maybe share that story and so people can get an understanding, because I know there's probably a lot of people out there who feel that way but are too scared to make that leap.
Well, I'm a Southeast Asian Filipino. My mom immigrated here from the Philippines. She came here to give me a better life. So you could already see the background story. She expected a lot from me as being the firstborn. And so you're either going to be a nurse, a doctor, an actor, or whatever. So you're going to be one of those things. And I didn't grow up in a poor area, but I didn't really grow up in a well-to-do area. And you had to learn how to really defend yourself really quickly. And then I was really fortunate that myself and a lot of my friends dabbled formally and informally in martial arts. And you had to prove yourself a lot of different ways here. And usually it's by your fists. We didn't have Facebooks. We didn't have Twitter. We didn't have cancel culture and all that kind of crap. You had a problem with someone. You either avoided him, like you were scared of him, and that was cool. That just happened, right? You ran your mouth, and if we caught you, you got the beats, and that's just the long and short of it, right?
There you go.
I hanged around with the wrong crowd. I hanged around the wrong years of high school. I went to Brampton High School and just hanged around the wrong crowd, and then I just realized, I'm not getting anywhere at all. So my 2 last years are really clamped down, and I was always good at math and science, and I got accepted to various universities like U of T and Ryerson for aerospace engineering.
Wow.
So, I got kicked out of my house for just not, being a good kid, always getting into trouble. I could tell you I ran the gambit of breaking quite a few laws and getting into a lot of scuffles here and there. And then so I just rented a small little room in a Jamaican household, and I just had my martial arts. I had a pet rabbit, for God's sake. You imagine me with a pet rabbit, a California long-eared rabbit, which I didn't eat, which I was surprising enough because I was freaking starving.
Yeah.
And I made daily trips to the dollar store. To me, a big treat was honestly those ramen noodles with eggs and sardines in a can, and that's how I grew up, right? That was my years of university, and I hated it. Dude, I was miserable, man. And I would take the bus and the transit all the way to Ryerson. And even though I was good at math and science, it was crushing. University was really hard for me and trying to like work at the same time as a doorman and live in this one room by myself. No friends, no family, pretty much cut off from my family. So then the one thing that kind of like, for one of a better word, saved me was martial arts, because Toronto is a mecca of martial arts. So
Yeah.
I spent a good portion of my OSAP money on martial arts training. I train a lot downtown Toronto. And I was a kid in the class that had weapons in my bag. I had sticks, I had gloves, I had nunchucks and stuff like that. And you know what? Math and science came really easy, but I had no heart for it. To be honest, I was just like, you know what? I love math, I love science, but I love the physicality of martial arts. I grew up with martial arts my whole life. And I remember distinctly, I was in one of my mini classes. I couldn't understand the professor at all. I was just having a hard time understanding him. Part because, like, as crappy as it sounds, he had an accent, and I just didn't even understand the material whatsoever. And I remember looking down at my bag, and I had like a pair of boxing gloves and a pair of sticks. And I said, you know what, I'm done. I'm just finished here. I finished like 2 years of university. I failed the first year. And I said, you know what, I'm just going to like pursue like a life of martial arts. I don't know what that's going to mean. I don't know what that's going to look like, but I'm going to be a martial arts instructor. That's it. And I have no idea what I'm going to do. So
okay.
that was a big, big crush to my mom. That just added more fuel to the fire as being the black sheep in the family. So, fast forward to like in the future where we get along infamously, my mom and I, it's only the last 10 years ago, she actually walked into my academy.
Yeah, I remember seeing her doing lessons with Amelia. I was like, that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really
so
cool.
like she didn't know, like, she thought, like, my family thought I was an assassin. They're like, listen, you make money like doing this boxing thing. Oh yeah, I make money doing this boxing thing. And they didn't really see like, any value in martial arts. And then it's pretty cool. Like my sister, I have to, say blessed to my sister, even though my mom and I, like at the time we hated each other, it seemed like, getting kicked out of the house and stuff like that. My sister really like tried to keep us united. Like she's the biggest link, the umbilical cord that joins everyone together. My sister would beg my mom to like, can you come to my birthday party? Can you come to Christmas dinner? She was a big advocate for me. And then my sister was like, do you know what your son does? Do you know that your son like has like the biggest martial arts community like in the whole of North America pretty much, and how he changes lives? My mom was like, whatever. So my sister was like, you should actually come. You should actually come and see what he does. And so my mom came, she goes, holy crow, this is your place? And it was at the old Combat Arts location. It was 15,000 square feet. And she was really impressed that I actually had a lot of people that I helped and that I was able to influence people positively through the martial arts. So she's a big advocate of martial arts in the fitness industry.
That's amazing story, man. And so now here you are, you're leaving school. You said, fuck it, I'm going to do martial arts. I'm going to do it my way. What next? How did it start? What was your first clients? How did you start to say, okay, how am I going to get students? How am I going to start a student base? Where am I going to teach? How did that all go down?
It's funny because like word had gotten around I was doing martial arts. And then when I was working the door, I had a couple good successful bouts in the door. Yeah, so I worked at the door. I worked at a blues bar. I worked in a blues bar as a doorman. And it's funny because the guy who got me my job is Brett Chan. Brett Chan is like now like one of North America's infamous upcoming stunt coordinator. So he was actually the guy who got me as a doorman. Yeah, he got me a job as a doorman there. And then he left me. He left me to go to BC. He just left me stranded there at the door. He left me stranded to be a doorman by myself, and he went to BC to be this famous stuntman. But one guy you should get on here? You got to get Brett Chan on here because he's got an amazing story when he went up to BC and how he struggled to be where he is right now. And that's definitely a guy you should definitely have on your podcast.
Oh, I'll definitely check him out.
Yeah, I'll hook for you if I can. So like, I remember like I would have some good physical bouts on the door, but people like the way I actually like talk my way out of a lot of crap. And when people saw that, I started to get a lot of clients that way from people just at the bar, So my notoriety got me some clients working the door there, and I lost money. I didn't know what to charge. I charged like below anyone's rate. I would travel by taxi or by bus, carrying my Tide pads, my sticks. Like imagine getting on a bus or in a taxi cab with all your gear, right? I look like Zatoichi or the Book of Eli. And so like I was walking like there and I would lose money. Yeah. But, after like, paying for the taxi, paying for bus fare and, getting my money from the client. But you know what? I loved it. I loved doing what I was doing. I was learning, and it was expanding my base. I was really getting out there. And then I used to belong to this club called MAFA, right? It was called the Martial Arts Fighting Academy. Actually, one of their first members there. And, I loved it because they had Jeet Kune Do, they had Kali and everything. That's how I met my Sifu Larry Hartzell. I met Professor Sullivan Masli there. And we just had like basically a difference of opinions when it came to like martial arts. The difference of opinion, right, it was on me, is that I thought that martial arts, there's more to martial arts than just, getting in the ring and sparring and doing forms in the air. I actually wanted to see if this stuff could really, really work. And, it was a little bit of arrogance and ignorance on my part because, like I said, back then, we used to grow up in a pretty rough area. Like when I wanted to learn martial arts, I asked my mom, I go, Mom, I want to learn martial arts. And she gave me a pen. And I go, what's this? She goes, there's your martial arts. You're going to stab someone. That's what you're going to do. I want you to stab someone when anyone bothers you. That's my first lesson from my mom, fresh off the boat. My mom's telling me this kind of stuff.
Improvised
in
weapon.
Canada. She goes, you want to learn martial arts? Here, take this pen. You're going to learn this way. And, I can't do that. And then she goes, yeah, okay, you're going to use a brick. Pick up a brick off the ground and use that. That's going to be your first martial arts lesson. So that was my martial arts lessons in the beginning. So I really wanted to see how this stuff actually worked. So I left because I wanted to see how this stuff worked. I wanted to be a man, work the door, work security, all that kind of stuff, right? So we left because of different opinions and everything, mainly on me, right? They didn't know that necessarily because they're a tough school. They had a lot of competitive athletes and everything. And then at the time, Gerald had heard that, I was teaching and getting back into it. And he asked me to come back and teach Jeet Kune Do. So I went back to MAFA to teach actually Jeet Kune Do and everything. And I helped organize their front desk and get some kind of structure there at MAFA and everything. And then again, we had difference of opinions. We had difference of opinions on how the school should be run. So I decided to go off on my own path. And, it's a bad breakup. We're good friends now, Gerald and I.
That's good.
It was a bad breakup and everything. And when I left, about 40 or so students left with me. And I started teaching them in the parking lot, unfortunately at MAFA. It was close by MAFA, so I was teaching in the parking lot at MAFA. That added more fuel to the fire. And then, I was teaching in parks and stuff like that. And then I had this senior student of mine. I won't name him because he's a dick. And essentially, like, he had this idea that we should go off to Gold's Gym. And I was really scared. I was like, you know what? I think I kind of want to do the private lessons and work the door and stuff like that. I kind of like this path.
Go ahead.
It was a scary step for my first business partner he said that we should go to Gold's Gym because he had some contacts there. He was trained with Henderson Thorne. Henderson Thorne was this like world-renowned bodybuilder who had competed numerous times in the Mr. Olympia. So we had the Gold's Gym located by Burnham Thorpe and Dixie area in the Rockwood Mall. And they offered me that place, a 2,000 square foot yoga studio. They offered me that area. So Henderson Thorne gave me my first opportunity to open up my club. So that's where I started. I actually started off formally, like pen to paper, signing an agreement and everything at Gold's Gym in Rockwood Mall in Mississauga, which is 2,000 square feet. And fast forward to like 13,500 square feet now, 20 years later. We just kept growing. To be honest, Mark, it was kind of an accident how it kind of grew. In all fairness.
I don't know. I think, Joey, like you just have that type of personality. Like everybody I know has a Joey story. Anybody that's at combat has a Joey story. And the funny thing about it is they're all good stories. I'm sure no matter how good you are, you're always an asshole in somebody else's story. But for the most part, I mean, everybody I know, when we're talking and your name comes up, like I'll show you my Joey story for these people here too. But I'll never forget. One of them was I was having a hard time because I was changing jobs. I live like an hour away. When I moved, I had stayed at my same job. I couldn't do it anymore. It was too taxing. I never saw the family, and got a job up where I live. But I was happier. I made less money. I was happier. I supplemented the money I lost in private lessons, but my commute was shorter. I had more time with my family. I wasn't so stressed. It was worth it, but there was a time there, a transition period where it was very stressful and hard for me. And I remember we had Salim coming, and I didn't have money to do the test, to test under him and do the seminar type of thing, right? So, and I remember you were leaving, and I was finishing up, and you were like, "Hey, man, good luck on your test." And I was like, "Oh, I'm not testing. I'm just." And you asked me why. I'm like, and without even me finishing anything, I remember you opening up your wallet and saying, "Here you go." And I'm like, "I can't." He's like, "No, you're an investment. I'm investing in my student. I'm investing in my school." Not many people do that, man. And I like that's the kind of person you just have that personality, Joy, where people, of course, are going to want to follow somebody like that. So, you know what I mean? I'm not surprised why your school grew the way it did. That being said,
Thank you.
what did you do? When you like, you're an educated person and you're a calculated person. When you decided that, okay, shit, this is starting to grow, I have something here. What was it that you envisioned for yourself, for your school? Because you have a very unique culture at your school, and you have a very loyal community, and there's not many places like Combat. Did you have that vision from the start, or is that something you molded and shaped along the way? And he's frozen. I hope you heard my question.
I think it's a combination of something at the start. Yeah. I hope. I think it's a question of both, Mark. Like when I first started off combat arts, it was like I say this many times. It was for selfish reasons. I wanted to train with a lot of great people, and I didn't want to travel. I wanted to be in my school, so I wanted to train with the best guys and have them accessible to me. I also wanted to give that same kind of teaching to my students. I also wanted to be around good people as much as possible, someone I could trust and someone who I liked. You know, I didn't have a father here. My father was back in the Philippines. Is my mom, my sister, a single parent. So maybe I was looking for that father figure. I don't know. But I definitely wanted to be around good peers, good people. And that's what I wanted for combat arts. And I wanted to be around a lot of good people. If I'm going to work for myself, I realized I didn't want to take any crap. I wanted to make sure that the people around me were really positive, or really good people. And then that just sort of kept growing. And then, you know, I've been very, very lucky, Mark. Most of the time, most of my instructors always reach in their pocket to help me. I've been very fortunate that my instructors actually really helped me a lot. And also my students really helped me a lot too. Like, I guess maybe they saw that I was trying to be sincere, and they would always reach in their pocket to help me out as much as possible. Like, for example, I remember like one clear example is Gerald from MAFA. I remember like, you know, he was always generous. You know, if there's a sweater or a t-shirt I liked, he'd give it to me. And there's always people helping me out. If there's someone that, you know, thought I would do it well in a Muay Thai testing, whatever, I didn't have the money, which sometimes I didn't. They would say, hey, you know what? Let me help you out here. Pay me back later on, et cetera, et cetera. So I've been always lucky. And I always believe that's what we should try to do, is to help out people around me. And like, I'll tell you later on my future project here, but I remember like when I was a kid in sports, I couldn't afford to play anything. Like, we didn't have any money for anything. My mom signed me up for Taekwondo, and then once she found out about the testing fees and everything, she had to pull me out. We just couldn't afford it. I couldn't play some team sports because we couldn't afford the soccer shorts. Like, imagine, like, soccer is such a cheap sport, one of the most inexpensive sports. And, you know, my mom would rather put that money towards putting food on the table. And I respect that, right? I just couldn't afford that. We couldn't afford that. So, like, I see that now when I see my friends and family, you know, who want to get into martial arts. I want to help them out because I know for sure how that feels. Okay. And definitely for sure, I would hate that a person doesn't progress well in the martial arts because money was an issue. And I really believe that person has a lot to offer. And that's a good thing about combat arts, man. There's so much great talent from the students and instructors. I would hope that money is not going to be a limiting factor for them.
Because I know, like, you had some students come with you, but they're, you know, it's especially then it's not cheap. You have to pay your rent. You need equipment. Later on, if you get serious, you need to have insurance. You need to have all that stuff. How hard was it for you to establish yourself there that way when you started?
Mark, it grew. It was like a wildfire, man. People love combat arts. Like, we were attracting members like crazy, hand over fist.
Wow, that's awesome.
it was awesome, but it was also really, really bad. I'll tell you in a few seconds why. So I made some partnerships. I made some partnerships because to save on equipment. So I made a partnership with a wrestling group to get their mats.
Oh yes, I remember.
Yeah, and I'll tell you right now, that's never a good reason to go into partnership. So like one business thing I'll tell people right away is like, don't acquire partners because you're necessarily getting a skill or an asset from them. That's not really the best thing to do. So even though I might have been getting involved with this particular individual because he had wrestling mats to contribute and it saved me a lot of money, in the long run, it actually
Yeah.
almost caused the downfall of combat arts. So you have to be really choosy about your partners.
Hmm.
Um, you know, you have to look at the skill sets you bring on for partners in your business, and that is probably something I did not do. So, like, you're really educated, Mark. You recommend some really good books to me, but everyone's heard about the E Myth, I'm sure by now. We're great technicians, we're great martial artists and everything, but none of my partners knew how to run a business. And my biggest mistake was trusting them. It was basically like, okay, I'm going to teach martial arts. I'm going to get the talent together. You guys manage or run the club. That was the biggest mistake I could have ever made in trusting people to do that and not checking the, how do I say,
Or
the bona fides, so to
yeah.
speak, right? Um, a couple of these individuals who I partner with are from higher education. They actually went to school and they actually teach business. They actually teach business. Well, I could tell you, they almost bankrupted combat arts.
Fuckers.
It was ridiculous. They didn't know how to file taxes. They ran us aground with CRA. They had some serious problems with commerce. Commerce actually almost went bankrupt 10 years ago
You froze.
because I made a mistake in
Hold
these
on.
people.
So you froze there for a second. You froze at where combat almost went bankrupt.
We're good now?
Yeah, we're good now.
I made the mistake of like, we almost went bankrupt about 10 years ago of actually trusting these particular individuals and trusting the fact that, hey, you know what? Just because you could teach business in school doesn't mean you actually know how to run a business. This is
Yeah.
actually my business partners and everything. So two lessons right there. Number one, don't take on partners necessarily just because they have something to bring, like a weightlifting equipment or mats.
Yeah.
That was really dumb, but I was desperate. Stupid mistake 20 something years ago, right? Or 19, 18 years ago. Secondly, too, yes, they may have all these credentials, but you know what? Experience does matter. You need to see if actually they've been there and they've done it. It's
100%.
a big, big difference, right? And as a business partner, you should, even though you may be like looking after the operation and stuff like that, you should still have a sense of what the hell your partners are doing. What are they doing? It's like a whole fight team, right? You have a nutritionist, you have like a strength conditioning coach, you have sparring partners, yada, yada, yada. You got to kind of like know what's going on with your athletes, your business, see what's going on. So those are some harsh lessons that we've overcome, about 10 years ago. It was really tough lessons because there's nothing more scary than having CRA call you and you're like, what the hell? We've even been filing our taxes. And the person that you thought was in charge of this, who teaches business in high school, would get his freaking head out of his ass and actually get his act together. So you got to really, really be careful, man. Really be careful.
I think
But
that's a problem that a lot of gyms have, right? They have, the gym starts because first off, the passion of the martial art, the passion of the knowledge. You want to share that with other people because anybody who does martial arts who's stuck in any significant amount of time is doing so because it's bettered their life, their quality of life, at any capacity. So of course, that's something they're going to want to stay a part of, and they're going to want to share that if they are, if they have a good moral, if they're just a good person, they want to see other people benefit from what they know benefit their life. That's why I'm doing it. But for the most part, I think that's a universal truth, right? We want to share something that we know is good and to help somebody else. But most of the time, these people who go and do that, like you say, they don't have that business sense. Most great martial artists, they're not business people. They usually have somebody who's usually family or relative kind of look over that for them if they're lucky, or they pay the big dollar and they get somebody else to do it for them. So that seems to be like a common thing in the martial arts community. But I think it's changing because the martial arts community and the gym is not just a gym anymore. There, you got gyms that are like, what do they call them? Like trains. You got gyms like yourself that's evolved through going through it, being the people that kind of innovated it and turned it into something else. Like most gyms now, like yourself, combat arts. You walk into combat arts, it's like weight room, jiu-jitsu, boxing, Muay Thai, Cali. At one point, I don't remember gyms being like that. When I was coming up, I was getting kicked out of clubs because they found that I was training with somebody else at a different school. And so, you know what I mean? Like, it's really cool to see kind of like that evolution. And like, and you're a smart guy. I see how your team studies other industries on how they do things. And, that's kind of like that JKD mentality, right? Extract what is useful, discard what isn't, and add in what your own. And a lot of people might not know, but you'll explain it better than I. But really, combat was birthed from Jeet Kune Do. Why?
Oh, yeah.
Why Jeet Kune Do?
You know what? I gotta be honest with you. Like, I used to go to the library and I would wait for them to sell their Bruce Lee books. And like, I would purposely go to the library and long time ago, like maybe tear the cover a little bit so they have to sell it. And I'd be the first guy in line to pick up that book. I love Bruce Lee. Like, you know what? And this was my thing. Like, I was, a little bit cocky. I don't know what you would say, arrogant, ignorant, all these words, right? But like, I definitely remember like when I was training back then, I was like, this is not real world application. Let's see if we can apply this kind of stuff. Because I did take into what Bruce Lee was saying. You got to spar. You got to see if this stuff really, really works. So let me explain like briefly how I learned Jeet Kune Do. And it's not good or bad, right? It's just what we knew back then. So the way I learned Jeet Kune Do was like, it was an hour class. This was at MAFA, right? Sort of like what my approach is to Jeet Kune Do, or not everyone's like, I think is like, I'm gonna draw a lot of heat for this. The approach to Jeet Kune Do. I'm probably gonna like piss off a lot of people, but I don't care. But okay. Anyway.
Real people, real talk.
Yeah, so like, the way we practiced Jeet Kune Do back then, and it's no fault of anybody, it's just what we knew back then, is that it maybe an hour class, we do 15 minutes of Parley, 15 minutes of Muay Thai, 15 minutes of shoot wrestling, a couple of locks, and maybe 15 minutes of trapping. And this is the first school that I knew that was teaching Jeet Kune Do in the GT area. So I was doing it. I was a badass, and I thought it was a cat's meow, and I was amazing at it. And then when I left MAFA, I was like, I'm going to leave MAFA, and I kind of want to explore and see what other schools are doing. And I went to a boxing school, and I got beat up. I went to a kickboxing school, and I got beat up. I was like, man, I don't really know what I'm doing. I kind of suck at boxing. I kind of suck at kickboxing. And then I began to understand, at least my interpretation of Jeet Kune Do, right? It's one thing to dabble in all these arts, like a buffet, and put together your own meal. It's one thing to live it and be immersed in that particular martial art for a while and take your lumps. You could take boxing, a couple of lessons of boxing and go, okay, I think I've got boxing. You don't have boxing. No. There are so many nuances to boxing that's crazy, from his stance to his footwork. You could do Wing Chun and you think, okay, I've done the Wing Chun dummy for a little bit. I think I know Wing Chun. No, you don't. You got to play with it and immerse with it for a long, long time. What's that long time mean? I have no idea. Will you revisit it later on? Yes, you will revisit it later on, right? And things that you think are dumb, you will later on go, oh my God, now you see the relevance of that technique. Or if you're getting old like me, you go, oh, I'm getting older. This would suit me now because I'm getting older, or not as flexible or not as durable as before. So that I actually try to apply to all my stuff I do. What is teaching? When I teach, I go, listen, I think this martial art does a better representation or a better way of teaching a particular technique. For example, if I see someone teaching a jab, whether it's from Muay Thai or boxing, I don't put my nose up in the air and go, hey, I already know how to teach a jab. I already know that kind of stuff. Perhaps that style or that way of teaching it is better than mine. Or maybe they have a really interesting way of like getting that translating that skill to the masses, and I'll steal it / borrow it. And it's the same idea I use basically with forming my team. Honestly, when I formed my team at Combat Arts in the beginning, I wanted to train with guys who are really good and better than me in martial arts. And I always remember this, like, if you're the best person in that room, you got to find another room.
Yeah. 100%.
And I gotta tell you right now, most of the guys at Combat Arts are better than me. They were once my students. Most of the guys, 90% of the guys at Combat Arts who teach at Combat Arts were probably my students or had interacted with me in a teaching capacity where I taught them. They are way better than me, you know, and I'm glad they teach for me. Like, that's amazing. They fought for me. They've gone, they've enriched their lives, or they've acquired new skills out of martial arts under the belts, and they are way better than me. And I love it. I love learning from them. And that just improves my game even more. So why not take that idea and apply it to business? And that's what I did, right? I tried to apply, basically learn from other industries. You know, so for example, when it comes to, you know, customer service and customer experience, I don't really look at martial arts. I look at other industries, like hospitality industries. I look at the fitness industry. I don't, only to like the last maybe 5 years, I looked at the martial arts as a role model. But to be honest and be sincere, there are a few role models in the martial arts business world that I wanted to emulate without sacrificing my teachings. Now, don't get me wrong, I think there's some great business models, and I just don't really believe what they've done when it comes to belt systems. And, you know, people call them McDojos, right?
Yep.
There's some martial arts systems that just have like 50,000 belts and they charge for it, yada, 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 yada. That works for them. That doesn't work for me. I want still to run a business, and I want to teach great martial arts and be around great people. And there shouldn't be any shame in that. Like, I think the archetype, I talked to Gay 10 about this from Strong Athlete, another great guy. And I speak with Gay 10 quite a bit. Gay 10 from Strong Athlete, we have this conversation all the time. There's an archetype basically when it comes to coaches, specifically also martial arts coaches. They walk around in orange saffron robes, they have flip-flops, and they eat out of the bowl with the chopsticks and they're catching flies, yada, yada, yada. They accept as a form of payment, maybe bartering, maybe some fruit, some rice, a donkey or whatever, or night in your home, right? That archetype has got to go. All right, that's not a role model. I sincerely believe that there are highly accredited instructors like yourself and like me who should be basically financially compensated for basically what we teach and through all the experience and learnings we've gone through. Now, some people may not see the benefit or the value of martial arts, but they've never, ever experienced it. And I'm talking about beyond the physical aspect of it. You know, for sure, I have gained a lot physically from the martial arts. And for sure, it has saved me a lot of times physically in altercations that I may or may not have initiated myself. All right. But I can tell you right now, when I was alone in my room, 1 year I was on social assistance. Dude, I was working 2 jobs. I can tell you right now, martial arts saved me because it made me mentally tough, really mentally tough. No one to punch, no one to get mad at. You know, you just got to deal with yourself. You have limited funds and you got to push through no matter what. And I tell you right now, martial arts taught me self-confidence, how to be tough mentally, how to be gritty. You know, that saying, fall 7, get up 8 is so true. You know, you get knocked down, you tap out, you had a bad day, the dojo, whatever, you get back in there. You get back in there. I remember Eric Paulson, you know, from Combat Submission Wrestling, based out of California. He was a professional fighter, you know, Shudo champion and everything, and one of the pioneers of MMA, right? With regards, you know, Shudo has been around for a long time.
A great practitioner.
Years, right? Yeah. And then like, he would tell us stories of like, you know, he'd go train in the morning, and now go back at night and put back on your wet hand wraps, your wet shoes, your wet gear, and do it again. Like, that's the kind of training, that's the kind of like toughness you need to have. So that's what I gained from martial arts. And that's one thing that I've tried to push upon my students is that mental toughness. You can't put a price tag on that.
No.
You can't.
No.
You know what I mean? There's no school, no university program that's going to teach you that mental toughness. Like getting tapped out. Like, especially in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's such an alpha male thing. You get beaten by another person.
Yeah.
You tap out, you give up.
There's no lying about it.
Yeah, there's no lying. And you got to come back next day.
Yep.
You can look tough on the pads, you can look tough on the bag, but if you tap out, you gave up to that person. And you got to suck it up and come back next day.
And you know what? It's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's a really good thing.
And it's needed nowadays. Kids need that right now.
People that's where I was going with that, Joey. There's such a problem here where people are so focused. When I say people, I mean, you know, more like it's just like this agreed fucking thing by society that we are, our job is to protect our kids from any fucking pain or any, like, anything that's hard or any, like, I don't understand when this happened, man. It's happened slowly, but it's like, how the fuck are you supposed to grow as a person if you don't meet adversity? If you don't know that you can overcome something hard? Because once you do, even if like it could be a small thing for you, a big thing for me. You know, for some people it's just coming in the fucking gym,
Yes.
coming in the gym and being
Yes.
there. Like, full disclosure, and I have no fucking shame about it. I My first experience in an MMA gym was a fucking horrible one, and I was traumatized, and I didn't want to do it again. And it took Mike Roosh a long time to coax me to being like, no, dude, just go to combat. It's a different place, you know. And I remember just I've always had a problem with anxiety because of things that happened in my life and that have affected me.
Mhm.
And I've been fighting it, you know, I've been fighting for years. And I learned how to fight it at combat because, like I was saying, you know, the biggest fights you'll ever have in your life, you can't hit them with your fists.
Yeah, you can.
You can't. So what? So what then? So
Yep.
what then? And you know, and I remember watching another movie too. Like, uh, I didn't read the book, but I read the book after I watched the movie. But one of my favorite movies is The Count of Monte Cristo. So when I first watched the lockdown, when I first
Yeah.
got into the lockdown, that was a movie I watched because it always sent a message to me like, what am I going to do? Am I going to sit here and feel sorry for my fucking self? Or am I going to take this opportunity to educate and prepare myself for when I get out? And, you know, like, there's a lot of kids suffering from depression and anxiety and things like this. And, you know, it's hard for everybody. But I also think, Joy, that it's hard for these kids because they didn't have the upbringing that, you know, maybe kids in our generation kind of had growing up. You know, and
I
I think
agree
that's why
totally.
and I think that's why martial arts is so important for kids to learn, especially jiu-jitsu. And the reason why I say that is because I don't have to worry about my kids having a concussion or a broken nose,
True.
but they can get that physical exertion and test their will.
Yep. Yep. And also too, like on a physical level, someone tapped you, and at the end of the day, you shake hands. That translates to me in social media and conversing with people, especially people I love. I could disagree with you and not have to collapse your trachea. You know what I mean? Like, and that's like something that people just don't seem to get. We could love each
When you
other.
say people, do you mean liberals?
I just I just agree to disagree. Like
Yeah.
there are some people I just go, I don't agree with your opinion, and you know what? Like we're still friends, we're still brothers, man. And I know that. I know that because I've been punched in the face by you. I've been punched in the face by you, and we shook hands afterwards. And we're cool about it. We're cool about it. You
Eh,
know,
You ever notice
words.
how you ever notice how when you walk into a martial arts gym, racism, uh, religion, all that shit kind of gets like put aside for the most part, because even if you go in there with a preconceived notion or prejudice,
Yep,
when you sweat and bleed beside somebody
yep.
and they test you and you test them and then you work alongside each other, how you cannot not gain respect or find mutual ground with that person. And even though you still have a difference of religion or political view or whatever, there was a respect there. There's something to work off of, and that really, that's all you need to overcome that shit. Because once something is not alien to you and you can relate to it at a level, then the dialogue can start.
I
and
agree with you.
and that's lost nowadays.
Yeah, you know, I've been uh, dabbling a little bit on how to argue. I know what an odd subject, but one of the things that we've forgotten to do is to come to a common ground. There is a lot of polarization, and it's basically like, you know, we have anti-vaxxers, vaxxers, anti-masks, masks, anti-lockdowns, lockdowns, et cetera, et cetera. And then before you could even like articulate your premises, your arguments and everything, once they hear that, oh, you're not into a vaccine, right away you're shut down. Well, why not just listen to that other person's perspective, regardless of the fact you may disagree with them? You could disagree with them, listen to what they have to say, and you'd be surprised that maybe it actually will give you some insight into what this person's thinking about. For example, like, you know, we've discussed this many times about the effect of how COVID has on small businesses. And some people just have no idea how these lockdowns can really negatively affect small businesses, particularly those that contribute greatly to health and fitness, health and wellness to people. So
It's almost like they do it on purpose.
I know. Wink, wink, right? It's just so odd how that happens. But like, you talk to people about this kind of stuff, and it's easy to talk about this kind of stuff when you're sitting on a high horse. You have a steady paycheck coming to you. You have a job that allows you to stay at home, no problem, yada 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 yada. And you know what? You don't. It's easy for you to criticize people that have small businesses and their whole family, their mortgage, their well-beings, their life savings are dependent on those small businesses existing. But again, unless people are directly affected by this kind of stuff, it's easy to sit back on their high horse and go, hey, you know what? Let's just lock down indefinitely.
And why do you think that is? Why do you think? Because me personally, the way I perceive it, and the reason why I ask you, Joy, is because you have a lot of contacts. You're in it. You own a gym. You own a large gym. You know, but for me, in my perspective, it just seems that in my perspective, society seems to have lost the ability to be empathetic uh, in general. Like, in the 70s, before I was born, there was like that slogan, he's no straight, like, he's my brother. He's no stranger, he's my brother. Like, that was kind of like a phrase, a word. People would like to be block parents. People wouldn't think twice about helping you out if you're on the side of the road. I just think like we've been through the things that we see on social media and constant violence on videos, people are not empathetic anymore. They don't have the same kind of compassion. I'm not saying everybody, I'm saying society. If you look at it statistically, at society as a whole, and I watched like this TED Talks the other day where they actually had statistics to show where people were asked questions based on like being compassion, empathy, and the statistics were like significantly dropped within the last 2 decades. And
Really, eh? Wow.
yeah, I'll share that link with you, and
Yeah, please.
maybe I'll post it here after I watched it at work.
Definitely.
But it's just like, because it's like, what's that phrase? You take a one link out of your dog's chain every day, he's not going to realize by the time he has no fucking room to move.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Why is it people are so able to like have a conversation open up on a text, but like people don't know how to be themselves and communicate when you're right in front of the fucking person? Like, people are losing that connection with other, like with conversation, with physiology, body language, expressions. Like, this is a real thing, I believe. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
I think like we had those challenges beforehand though, like, and now it's further exacerbated by our current condition, so like, again, like, I think there's a lot of issues you're opening up here. It's like, for example, like we talked about martial arts, how it makes you confident and everything. You get tapped out and you just go, you know what, that's just it. I got tapped out. I got to deal with this person. He's still my friend. He's still my brother. I got to deal with that kind of stuff. Let me tell you, I went to high school in J. Turner, 2 years or so. No, 3 years. Pretty much an all black East Indian school in Brampton. It seemed like I was the only Asian guy.
Where did you go? Sorry, in Brampton?
I went to J. Turner.
Oh, Turner Fenton on fucking Kennedy?
Yeah.
Oh, you
I
went
went
to
there for the
Turner.
aviation program to be a pilot, right? And it seemed like I was the only Asian guy in that school. I'm pretty sure I wasn't, but it seemed like I was the only Asian guy in that school. And I don't know what it is, that school. When you go to school and you seem like you're like a kindergarten senior kid and everyone's like a man?
Yeah.
Everyone in that school was like a Goliath. They all seem to be from Senegalese or like, the African fighters in UFC right now. They seem to be huge, these guys. They're huge.
Yeah.
You know what's really cool about them? They would get together in the student area, and you'll see the point here. And they used to have a game called Your Mama. And you hoped you weren't picked.
Yeah.
And I got picked a couple of times. And you have to go back and forth. Your mama wore steel combat boots. Your mama did this. Your mama did that, da, da, da. And they're jokes, right? They're insults. Most of the time I broke. I couldn't handle it. I get mad and I want to like roll up my sleeves and get into it. You lost the game.
Throw your thick skin there.
And I grew my thick skin really quickly, man. You know, you don't want to throw down with like these guys, man. They're huge guys, man. They knew how to fight. And I can tell you right now, you had to be word wise. Or you know what? You had to be willing to like, let's just sit down and have a communication, let's talk. Most people now, they hide behind their screens, Mark. And
Yeah.
heaven forbid you insult them, they're not thick skinned, man. They take it too personal, they take it to bed with them. Right? So first and foremost, I think in martial arts, honestly, you know what? In any sports, you take a beating, you accept it, man. That's just the way it is. Yeah, these guys just can't take a tongue lashing. You can't basically get insulted. And when you get insulted, they take it too personally, right?
Mm.
They don't want to communicate with each other and see what a person has to offer. We talked about polarization. I think this is so true, Mark. Like, honestly, it's us against them. There's no us against them. We're all on the same ground. If you truly believe that we're all in this together, then why don't you want to hear my side of the argument?
Exactly.
Why don't you want to, if we're going to get through this together, if we're all in this together, then why don't you want to look at my experts?
Yeah.
Are your experts the only one?
Yeah.
You know, I have experts too. I have people that have a medical background, a scientific background, that can as equally put up studies and everything that negate what you have to say.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing, because you have all right, you have this side that says, this is what our research tells us. You have this side that says, this is what our research tells us. So I'm willing to listen. But the minute that one starts to censor the other, I kind of go with that, fuck you. Why? Why are you wanting to censor us? What is it that you don't want? What do you have to gain to be so fixated on shutting up your opposition? There's a problem there. There's a problem there.
You can't cherry pick your arguments either. You can't say that this particular organization that I'm going to use a resource to basically give me a premise to an argument, I'm going to take their stats and use it for my argument. But if you were to say, okay, that same organization you picked also said this, no, you can't use that. Well, why not? It's the same source as yours.
Right.
So we find that people nowadays are cherry picking or making things basically support their own biases. We also have to be worried about these social media channels, because I just learned this, that basically they echo basically what we like. So
100%.
Yeah. So like, if I believe that lockdowns are ridiculous,
that's
right?
Gonna show on your
Which
feed.
I do, right? They're gonna basically promote more of that material on your feed.
Yeah, and you allow it when you get new apps.
Right, and they're gonna fuel your beliefs, and you're gonna be cognizant of that. Like, okay, yes, they're making this separation. Stop it. You need to basically look outside of your comfort zone, those echo chambers, and see what other sources are out there for you. All right. Also, this distancing, this 6 feet, this mask and stuff like that, the social distancing, right? It also means basically we're not communicating effectively with each other. I remember last year in summertime, people would approach me wanting to basically breach that 6 meter gap or whatever gap we have and go, just want to talk. Why? Because people are meant to communicate with each other, to socialize.
100%.
Look at a parking lot. You show up at an empty parking lot, you park your car.
Someone park beside you.
Someone park beside you. And the parking spots around you, right? People are meant to socialize and communicate with each other. And we're breaking down those barriers. We're making it harder for us to communicate with each other. This Zoom crap, being 6 feet apart. Now I heard there's pagers now that one of my employees, he works at a company that I don't want to disclose, they actually wear pagers. And if they get within X amount of feet with each other, it starts beeping.
Are you
and they
fucking
go, oh my
serious?
God. Yeah, seriously, they got to step away from each other.
I would fucking throw that thing away and walk out.
That's ridiculous. It's affecting people that they don't want to communicate with each other, right? I don't wear my mask outside because it's outside. And people look at me as if like I have leprosy. And people walk a big circle around me. To each their own. But this is division is happening, right?
Yeah.
People stuck in old age home, long-term care. I've heard that they've lost the gift. They've lost the ability to communicate. Why? They segregated them in their own rooms. You put them in their own rooms. They're accelerating things like Alzheimer's, dementia, and stuff like that because they don't communicate with other people. So these situations have actually, the current situation has actually exacerbated those issues. Polarization, no thick-skinned, can't have a disagreement with someone. Heaven forbid that someone disagrees with me, I can't be their friend. No, we can. We can do that intelligently. It's no problem at all.
I also think it's a problem that people don't want to, it's like almost like, I don't know how fucking stupid people can be sometimes. It's like they don't have the ability to think, to critically think and ask a question and not just accept what's been told to them, you know? Like, I hear these people, oh my God, yeah, we're not taking our kids to go trick-or-treating because, we're going door to door, Do you go to fucking Tim Hortons drive-through? What's the fucking difference?
You go to the grocery store?
Yeah. What the fuck? What's wrong with you? You go in a restaurant wearing a mask because you're so worried and you get to the table, take it off. And then the whole premise is somebody's touching your fucking food. Like, I went to one store and the guy had this plastic thing over the Interact machine. And I look at him like, okay, he's covering it so I don't touch the buttons. He's got to be wiping this down after I use it. And I wanted to see before I had a judge. I thought about it. I'm like, don't judge, wait and see. So I use my machine, I use my card, and I walk away and I stand and I'm just watching to see if he sprays and wipes it down. And he doesn't. And then I ask him, I'm like, hey man, why do you guys have that on there? He's like, oh, because, COVID. I'm like, yeah, no, I get it. But why do you have the plastic over there? Oh, so that, not everybody touches the pads. I'm like, okay, but you're not wiping it down. So it doesn't fucking matter if I touch the pad or I touch the plastic covering the pad. If you're not wiping it, it's redundant. And he looked at me like I had fucking like, oh my God, he had an epiphany. Like people just are on autopilot.
Yeah, I know.
It's scary.
Like, it may be easier for some people to understand it. And maybe it's for like, I don't want to harp on martial arts again, but being a Jeet Kune Do guy, we never accept anything as truth. Sorry, we just don't. Like, don't get me wrong. I've been lucky. I've trained with a lot of great instructors and I love them, right? I love every single one of them, but I won't know until I know.
Exactly.
I won't know until I actually try it out. And there's truth to it when I get into the ring or get into the cage or get on the mats. There's going to be some truth to it. All right. And so like we're taught in at least Jeet Kune Do and the martial arts to kind of question things, and we could disagree. Like, you know what? I don't think you should pivot on your hook. Well, I want to pivot on my hook. Well, you know what? Let's just agree to disagree. And I think like, like we're lucky in that way. Like most of the time our community, we have those kind of conversations. It's just maybe daunting. We don't see that in other aspects of our life. Like when people just don't want to have those open conversations. Some people are really stuck in their viewpoints. What is disarming though, is that people that we know who have the credentials to basically bring to the forefront stuff that are, how do I say this? Evidence contrary to popular belief, they cannot speak out.
No.
They cannot speak out in fear of basically being ostracized by their own peers, by having their licenses stripped, by being ridiculed on MSM, all right? By having the masses basically find out where they live and cause great harm to them. This is a serious problem. So like, it may be one thing for you and I to disagree amongst ourselves or amongst our family members, but when you have other leaders in our industry who are afraid to speak out, that's a serious problem now.
100%.
Because like we're taking at face value, most people are taking at face value what these experts are telling us. Like you said, they're cowed. There's no evidence to the contrary. So maybe they're not supplied with any information or any fuel to have any critical thinking. So they just go along with particularly what this person has said. Heaven forbid if someone of equal expertise and also too has some information that can be contrary to what is proposed can actually bring it to the forefront. They can't. They cannot, because they're not part of the narration, so people say, or they're gonna lose their license or whatever. So that's another problem too, Mark. Our experts on the other side of the coin are being quelled, and that sucks.
It's dangerous.
It's dangerous.
It's very dangerous. So that being said, we know we're in this fight. What advice can you offer or suggest or even just comment on? How does one now take that fighting spirit and apply it to what a lot of gyms are going through? Fighting for survival, fighting for their livelihood. How have you used what you've learned in martial arts? And like we talked about, growing that thin skin. How have you transferred those skills into keeping combat alive?
like for ourselves, like again, we're lucky to have like people like you in our community and stuff like that. We have a pretty big community, but it also comes down to like, I think this is really critical, how to manage stress. And one way that we've agreed to manage stress is like, what can we really control? And so on a micro,
You cut out, Joy.
what can you and I control for ourselves? All right. So
You're
we're
back.
good now?
Yeah, we're back.
Yeah. Okay. So like, to me, it's like, number one, what is our reaction towards stress? And we know that basically one of the best things is like, how can we handle it individually? That's first and foremost as leaders within our martial arts community at Combat Arts. Not even just like Combat Arts, but in our community where we live. So how we basically react to stress is really, really important, because it's not what we say, it's what we do. I'm sure you have kids, you understand this even more so than I do. You can say whatever you want, you watch your actions.
Yeah.
So
100%.
first and foremost, I take care of myself, right? So taking care of myself means I work out. During this interim, I've been taking up new courses, reading, and just trying to like develop a better skill set. So being a better representative and then sharing those sources with my friends, my family, and my Combat Arts community, whether it's showing my workout videos, sharing my books, sharing some free sources for my staff members. Basically, what's the saying? As the tide rises, all ships rise too, something like that.
Yeah.
I want to do that too. So I want to make myself better, show how I'm resilient, how I'm basically, improving my skill set, no matter my circumstances. And everyone's skill sets around me is also going to improve, right? That's number one. All right. Number two, at the end of the day, we are all Combat Arts. Now that sounds really hokey, but I thought about, I really accepted the fact. Long time ago, I thought, what would happen if martial arts was illegal? This is before the COVID happens. What would happen if martial arts was illegal, right? Like imagine that.
We just go underground
by law, right? Yeah, there'll be like prohibition. There'll be like a lot of underground training death camps, which is awesome. But like, honestly, you are Combat Arts. I am Combat Arts. Because since we began Combat Arts 20 plus years ago, it's an idea. Yeah. It's an idea of making yourself better, being around great people, and helping each other. You don't need a physical building to basically do that. We emulate that. All of our leaders, like you and all our staff and everything, we do that every day. So like if Combat Arts was to smash, get broken down, we would start again. And I recognize that because we're an idea. You can't destroy an idea. You can't destroy a concept like that. It's impossible.
Not with brick and mortar.
Not with brick and mortar. And then the last thing is too, like, we have to be careful of our identity. You're more than just a martial artist. I'm more than just a martial artist.
That's a great point.
Yeah. And like my identity is not tied to Combat Arts. It's not. I'm a great friend. I'm a brother. I'm a son. I'm a husband / boyfriend, whatever I am. I'm a dad to my stepdaughter, my dog and everything. I wear many hats. This is just one of many identities that I walk. But just because Combat Arts would possibly fail, which is not, but if it did, it doesn't reflect on me as a person, my identity. It doesn't. And a lot of people forget that, and my life compass, my life goal is to help people. I don't need Combat Arts to do that. I don't. I could do it back in a parking lot. I could do it through Zoom. I could do it through these podcasts and everything. So basically my life goal has always been the same, as to help people. I use martial arts as a medium to do that. So like, that's basically what I've come to. So I'm basically untouchable. They could do whatever they want. They could put these lockdowns, restrictions, whatever. But one day I'm going to have a voice. And I'm just basically making myself better and better and better. So what happens is going to be amazing, and I want people around me to understand that, that's why I try to, it's hard. Like I have shitty days. Like, I heard we're locked down again to like, I don't know, April 2022. I don't know what's going on, but we're locked down again, probably indefinitely, Metro and Toronto and Peel. I'm hearing this rumor. And, it's hard to hear that kind of stuff, right?
It's disheartening.
Yeah, it's me as a leader. I just have to keep making myself better and better and better. It does not detract from my life compass. I'm still here to help people. That doesn't affect me whatsoever.
So you just sparked two questions in my head, and I'm gonna ask you real quick because my memory is shit. So like that was a very powerful thing you said. And I think a lot of people learned that shit the hard way during this first lockdown.
Yeah, oh yeah.
People associated themselves with what they do. It's their
Yep.
identity. It's who they are. People spend so many hours and time away from their family and friends and make the sacrifice to do the things they love to get better at it. And it's gone, or not at the same capacity. And, like, real talk, I fucking hit a wall. The first 2 months, I was fucking doing every Zoom class I could. And I was like, oh, I'm going to be in the best fucking shape when this is over. And then 3 months go by, 4 months go by, and nobody sees an end to this shit. And for me, it was just like, the problem was, I think, is that in my mind, I was saying, 3 months tops. And that's all I prepared myself for. And when it passed that, I was like, now this is all uncharted, unknown territory. And, it's hard doing a sentence when you don't know how long your time is.
Yeah.
And so punching the bag, and that's the thing. And that's the thing that part of me made me fucking angry, that I was complaining because I had more resources than a lot of people have.
Mm-hmm.
I have a bag, I have mats, I have a dummy, I have this, I have that. But I didn't have my training partners. I didn't have the people who pushed me. I didn't have the interaction. I couldn't hear and smell and see and experience the gym. Like, combat's such a fucking electrifying place. Like, you walk in there, you walk in there on like
100 people a day sometimes.
It's funny. It's so funny. Like, one day I walked in, I laugh now. It wasn't funny then, but I remember, like, it's funny. It's like jail, right? You sit at home, you have nothing but your thoughts.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So like all these fucking
TV show Oz.
Yeah, so like all these things are replaying in my head, and I can't remember who it was. I'm lying, I do, but I'm just not gonna say it. But I was sitting there, and it was like fucking like 80 people in the gym, and this guy's like, "Where the fuck is everybody? It's fucking dead. It's fucking dead today." I'm like, "Yeah." It was like a competition going, and it's just like, you go to class with a limited of 10 people, and you're just like, "Fuck, man."
Yeah.
It really made me realize what I took for granted, right? Yeah, like, and so that's the thing, like, like the truth is fixed in time, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, fuck. But yeah, I got really depressed, man. And then I had some things happen in my personal life with family members and shit like that just kind of that weight added. I'm out of it now. Part of it had to be that you told me I look fat, so I'm working hard.
At least I'm truthful.
Oh, hey, man, I embrace it. Whatever, I'm working it off. But no, and
Look good on camera today.
Thank you. It's because of the table. But no, and that's the kind of shit, right? Like, when somebody tells you that they give a fuck about you.
Yeah, man.
And you have that, and my reaction is not, I'm offended, I'm gonna start a page and fucking just cancel you. I'm gonna say, fuck, he's right. I'm gonna go work out. I'm gonna get back to where I was.
Yeah, man. I love you, man. Like, you look at it that way. It's like, you can't be like that, man.
Yeah.
We have a higher standard for each other. We have a high standards for each other. You know what I mean?
And that's why community is so important.
For sure.
Accountability, truthfulness, honesty.
Trust.
And that's hard.
The biggest thing in a culture. If you're afraid to speak up to the leader or to each other, you don't have a community, man. You have, I don't know what you have, man.
It's called a dictatorship.
Yeah, man. And that's the problem we have now. We don't have that trust. Like, I'm sure, like, heaven forbid, like, maybe what's being proposed, all these lockdowns and everything, maybe they're the right course of action. We'll never know 5 years down the road. But I'll tell you right now, people don't trust the government. People don't trust public health, and that's the problem, all right? And you can't have this kind of culture and community if you don't trust our leaders. That's the toughest thing. And so we trust each other. Like, listen, dude, like, you shouldn't fight. I've told fighters, dude, don't fight. I'm telling you right now, you're not ready to fight. All right. And it breaks my heart to tell them that. It breaks my heart because, honestly, I know it's their goal and they think they've been training hard, but I know they could do better. And That sucks. And if you don't have that trust, that's a small microorganism fighting. Someone could get potentially hurt. Now apply it to the world, apply it to Canada, apply it to Mississauga, our public health and everything. you're dealing with people's lives.
Yeah.
Dealing with people's lives, and people do not trust the leaders. You know, you said something at the beginning of this conversation, which was really, really key. You might not like what you see in the mirror. And that's really, really true. And one thing that definitely for sure that you will not like is your conversation with yourself. And how do you speak to yourself? So first and foremost, if you fell off the wagon, so to speak, you're not doing what you're doing, you're Netflix binging, you're drinking like crazy, you're eating all the junk food in your house. First and foremost, the fact that you recognize it, that's awesome. That's number one. Number two, watch what you say to yourself. Now, I'm not saying be a snowflake and coddle yourself, right? But don't sit there and go, oh, you're stupid, you're an idiot and stuff like that. Because believe it or not, you're training your subconscious mind.
100%.
Be analytical about it, but be nice about it. Nice and firm about it. Okay, listen, we screwed up. We need to get back on stage, yada, 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 yada. So I do tell people a lot, be careful of their self-talk, because really, honestly, you're really programming yourself to be negative. And that's not going to really help you at all.
No.
All right. Next thing is jump back in. Honestly, and what I mean by jump back in, I don't mean going balls to the walls. I mean like really literally small steps, like working out for me. Like, for example, even though I'm lucky that Amelia is here and she's my training partner, there are days we look at each other, we're like, we're not working out today. And like we go, let's train for 10 minutes. 10 minutes. An hour and a half later, it was a great workout. So I tell people honestly, just to start small. Start small with the intention of having fun. That's it. 5-10 minutes. That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
So those are my big things. Like, number one, be careful how you talk to yourself. Get back in there, start small right away. And I know some people talk about their why and everything. Why is a big deal though. Like
100%.
Honestly, yeah, it's a big deal. And you know what? I get it. Some people are just tired.
Yeah.
There's just some people are just like, you know what? I get your why and stuff like that, but the world could end tomorrow. Why should I bother doing this? Why should I bother doing this when I should just binge and drink and just waste up my life? You never know, the world will end tomorrow. Definitely for sure, I do think you should circle back to your why, but that's a conversation where you're on better ground. Like right now, you're in quicksand. I think you need to watch your conversation, acknowledge you're kind of fucked up, and immediately get back into it with like a 5-10 minute reset. Like 10 minutes into reading, 10 minutes doing your whatever you do best. And then circle back to your why and really reaffirm your why, who depends on you, et cetera, et cetera. Also, one more before, sorry. If you're talking to a friend who had these same problems, what would you say to him?
Yeah, that's the thing. But see, because when you're on the outside looking in, you don't have that emotional attachment.
Yeah, you got to do that.
Yeah,
so you got to do it on firmer ground. When you're on firmer ground, go, dude, what would I say to my best friend right now who's going through this situation? And you know what? Most of us know what we have to do.
It's funny you say that. Like what I've done, a tactic that I've done for me. And before I get into that, let me backtrack for a second. The biggest problem I had when I fell off wasn't just that boohoo, I miss my friends and punching shit. It was like, I didn't even have, and this is what worried me. I didn't even have the motivation to want to train. Because like, there were so many things about it I loved that it's like it was taken away, and I was just like,
what's the point?
Yeah, I got into that. But then like you say, you find your why, you have a kind of but leading up to what I was going to say, I had a tactic, and anybody out there listening, it worked for me. Try it out. What I do is when I feel like shit, when I feel like low, when I have something bother me, I record myself saying what it is that's bothering me. And then I don't listen to it. I don't listen to it until at least like 24 to 48 hours. And I make sure I'm not feeling like that anymore. And what I do is I listen to it. And then when I finish listening to it, I record myself giving a solution or an encouragement to that feeling. And then when I feel like shit again, that's when I listen to that recording.
That's good.
And it's fucking weird because, personalities, we know who we are, but when we feel certain emotions, we are certain people. Like
yes.
we're the same, but we're, you know what I mean? We're different. We look at things through a different lens. We're
Hmm.
still unique to who we are, but we're who we are through that lens. And when you hear yourself talking, you're like, it's fucking, it's weird because it's you, but you're talking to you differently than how you're thinking.
Yes, 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 yeah, yeah. So you hear that your voice, and you're like, "That's me.
Yeah.
That
So
could be me."
I've been doing that, and that for me is helping me. And if anybody out there heard that, try it out.
That's a
See
great
how it works
tactic,
for you.
man. I love it. Um, and like a couple other tactics too. Like to add to that is like, I remember like days that are really good for me. Like we forget like, oh my god, today's crap. Well, have you always had crappy days? That's not true. Not every day on this planet has been crappy, right? You've had great days, and I try to remember that. If I can't dig myself out of a hole, I try to remember who I am, and I'm supposed to be a leader. I'm supposed to be basically that people look up to, and I have a community I have to look after. And so I'll text random people in my community, and I'll go, "How are you doing?"
Yeah.
Because if I can't help myself, because I'm just feeling like pathetic, I know I can help people out there. And so I'll reach out to people who I'm like I'll like, have 3 staff members or 3 members. I'll send a quick message, go, "Hey, what's going on?" Just to check up on them to make sure they're okay. Especially those apparent introverts. You never know. You're probably doing better than me, but like, you know what? Maybe they're hidden away and you really need someone to speak to.
Yeah.
If I haven't seen someone in my Zoom class, I reach out to them and go, "What's going on? I haven't seen you in class lately." So like sometimes if you can't serve yourself,
Serve
try
the
to
community.
serve others. And then you know what? That can bring you out of the hole too.
That was gonna be
Helping other people.
one of my questions, and you kind of answered already, but I'm gonna ask it again anyway because maybe there's more to it than that.
Hmm.
Because as a person who is at the, like I said, like you said, you are a leader. You affected a lot of people, a lot of people. You've greatly impacted the community. Um, it's massive on a large scale, Joey. It really is something special, and
Oh, thank you, man.
I hope you know that. Like you really have
Actually, I
done.
don't sometimes.
No, but listen, you've done a
Yeah,
lot.
thank
I
you.
know I know just for what you've done for me, right?
Thank
You,
you.
you gave me the confidence to come out of my shell and believe that I have something to offer, and that and I just got better. I just got better through that. I had a lot of problems dealing with anxiety, and because of you, I now feel comfortable. Whatever, it doesn't matter what the art is. I'll go and spar. I'll try this. I'll try that. I'll go do, and it's liberating. But
Good, good.
as somebody who has like all that weight on their shoulder, all those eyes constantly on you, or seen as the elder in the tribe, what what's your fucking security? What's your security blanket?
Oh
What's
man,
your what's
good
your thing
question.
that gets you past some bullshit? And
So,
you don't have to say Amelia. I'm just joking. I'm just
well,
joking.
no, no, no. Like, but like to be honest, like, I have days where I have like I feel really sorry for myself too and everything, and I think you could tell maybe with my texts or my conversations where I just is it fuck it, man. I've had enough for today. And then I always remember that seal saying, "I'm gonna quit tomorrow." And yeah, you know what? I am gonna quit tomorrow. I always say that. I tell you right now, there's a lot of times I want to quit. I go, "Man, let's just pack it up. We're done for today. I've had enough." And I go, "I'm just gonna quit tomorrow." And I go by myself. Amelia can't even talk to me. I don't want to talk to you and everything. I just want to be by myself. And then I don't know what happens. Like during that time, I'm usually by myself. I really try to remember like when I've been at my lowest. And I can tell you right now, Mark, this is not my lowest. I've been really, really low.
I'm
And
glad to hear it.
and it sucks to say that because like there's been some situations that I don't want to say on here, but like I've been in some situations where I'm like, man, can this get any worse?
Fucking worse.
Yeah, worse than before. Crew matey, I gotta tell you right now, crew matey's been there for me. He's been there with my lowest points in my life. He brought me out to Thailand to help him get ready for his championship fight that didn't unfortunately come to fruition.
Is that the one he lost in decision?
No, no, that's another one. Like he didn't even get the fight. He had to go back for
Oh,
personal reasons. But he brought me out to help him and everything, and didn't come to fruition, which was really unfortunate. But I was going through some really, really bad time, and he demanded I come out to Thailand with him and everything. And then I remember Brett Chan had a conversation with me too in Vancouver, and he's like, "You kind of like gotta stop feeling sorry for yourself and get your shit together." And I gotta tell you right now though, there are days when I feel like that, and I say to myself, I go, "Listen, you're allowed to have a crap day. You're allowed to have a crap day, and honestly, be careful what you say, because you know what you're saying to yourself is bullshit. You've been in worse situations, literally life and death situations where you've caused great harm to other people, and you've almost been on the receiving end of a knife or some serious situation. All right. So stop being a bitch. You've been in worse situations. You've been in worse financial situations. I've been in social assistance for a year. I cried when I went to the social welfare office. I cried, and I was embarrassed. And I said, I'm gonna be on social assistance for 1 year. I'm gonna get off social assistance in 1 year. You know, trust me. She's like,
Mark my
whatever.
word. Yeah.
Mark my word. 3 days, less a year, I walked in and said I'm off. And that was the best feeling. I remember that 3 days less a year, I was like, I'm off. I don't need this help anymore. I made it on my own. I was struggling doing private lessons and cabs and friggin' buses, working 2 jobs, but I did it. I actually did it. You know, so I know how it is to struggle. I've been through some really, really tough times. So this is like almost like nothing for me. But I recognize it's like you know, I also watch what I say to myself, the way I say it. I may say like, I don't say I am sad. I feel sad.
I feel sad right now.
Yeah, I feel sad right now. This will pass.
Yeah.
This will pass. Just right now, I'm going to suffer, and I should allow myself to suffer. I'm going to allow myself to feel sorry, to cry, to drink, to go to bed grumpy. But tomorrow is going to be a different day, and if I want to, I'll quit tomorrow. But I allow myself, Mark. I actually do. I don't try to like be Pollyanna or Disney World or Kumbaya and say it's a better world. It's not.
It's not.
Sometimes it's shitty, and you're dealt a shitty hand, and it sucks. But I'll tell you right now, I've been in worse positions, and so have you. Everyone has. They just don't realize it, right? And honestly, I always have the option to quit.
What I
can
want,
always quit.
what I think people need to realize too, Joey, is they're headed for worse.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So prepare
sure.
now. Prepare now.
Yeah, and not only that too, Mark. You know what? How I basically face these situations, these hardships and everything, is going to basically prepare me for the hardships going to come up in the future. It definitely is. It's going to, like, you know, prepare me for like the challenges I'm going to have. This is a cakewalk. I know it. Like, I I don't sound like negative to the listeners and everything. This is probably going to be a cakewalk for a lot for you. You don't realize it. It's probably going to get much worse later on in the future.
It is going to get much worse, and that's the thing. It's not to be negative, Joey. It's like the mindset needs to change where we're expecting life to be this magical fucking wonderful thing where we walk through life and everything's handed to you, and you know, there is fucking cause and effect. There is action and reaction, and right now is a fucking point in time. It's a historic moment in time. Like, this shit will be in history books, what we're going through right now. And people need to buckle up and prepare. They need to buckle up and prepare.
For sure.
And they need to, and I'm not talking about like zombies are coming and shit like that. I'm just talking about everyday life. Things are going to get harder. It's going to be harder to see people.
Yeah,
it's going to be hard. And if you didn't have a thick skin before, fucking get it now, because
not only that, like, if you're a parent, you better step up, because 100%. I'll tell you right now, our kids are not looking at us to what we're saying. They're looking at how we react to these situations. And that's who we're leaving this world to, is our kids. They're the ones who are going to suffer, unfortunately, from our actions or inactions during this period of COVID. And the one thing that we could only control is basically how we react to the situation. And our kids are going to observe that. If you don't think so, my beautiful like niece, she's 5-6 years old.
She's adorable, by the way.
Oh yeah, man. Oh man, I can't wait. I hope she never grows up, but unfortunately it does happen. Yeah, but she went out with the rest of her class, you know, outside. They're playing outside, and they went to do some chalk drawings and everything. And man, it broke my heart. You know what my niece wrote, Mia? She wrote on the ground, "I hope the virus goes away soon." Yeah. And that's like heart-wrenching. Yeah. It's heart-wrenching that a child has to go through that. They don't understand why they can't see their aunt and uncle on a regular basis, why they can't see their primos, they can't see their friends, etc., etc. All right? That's who it's going to affect. And how we basically step up to it is really important. It's really, really important how we show them to meet those challenges. Yeah. It really is. and allow them to enjoy life. Because right now, these particular restrictions we have don't allow them to enjoy life. And we need them to show them how to, like, overcome these circumstances. And we can only do that through basically being leaders in actions. That's what also gives me energy too, right? Like, Mark, at the end of the day, we have an obligation, giri, the Japanese word for duty for martial arts. We have a duty basically to all of us around us. We can't be selfish.
No.
I know it's hard to say that. We're warriors. Like, we're the sheep herders and everything. People rely upon us to step up to the plate. We are not allowed to take a break. It's hard because we're expected to be tough and strong all the time. People expect us to be stoic, to never have a chink in our armor, to never show any weakness whatsoever. That's why when we have those pity parties, have it. Let it out. Scream. Go on a rage. Go on a drinking binge. Don't hurt anybody. Go outside and whatever, kick a tree. Well, don't kick trees. I like trees. But just freak out and everything. But come back next day and deal with it. You need to have that release and everything.
Resiliency.
And I think we've lost the warrior culture. And when I say warrior culture, I'm not saying like we have to go out there and kill people. Like, I think people forget that. People like don't understand that we have warriors in today's society. Warriors have always been part of our society, our community. They've been a part of our community. They're really necessary. We see them obviously through our police force and our military. That is the obvious examples of like, the soldiers, the warriors in our community. But we also have people like you. We have leaders. We have teachers that step up to the plate, coaches that step up to the plate, people that teach martial arts. They are the warriors also too. They're not maybe getting to physical fracases, but the character traits that they're showing, which is what you and I always talk about, those character traits outside of the dojo are the most important things. Physicality, whether, we train for one day that possibly get into a physical confrontation that may or may never have. All warriors do that. All warriors train for the possibility of getting into a physical confrontation, life or death or what have you, that may never, ever happen.
What's that saying? Better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war?
Exactly. I get so correct. But the character traits that we develop outside of the dojo are those warrior traits. Those are the most important things. Fall down 7, get up 8. That is the most important thing that people just don't understand. That's our warrior culture, and we need to come back to that. And a lot of people are afraid of that. They're afraid of basically losing. They're afraid of, everyone has to be a winner in today's culture. Everyone's afraid of being like growing thick skin. To take an insult and laugh it off and go, dude, that's so funny, man. Like, I'm gonna say something here that may offend some people. I remember I was in like elementary school, and my Indian friend, I love him, Indian guy and everything, best friend to this day. And we always laugh about this. And he knows I'm Filipino. He's come over to have Filipino food, and he goes, dude, you're a chink. I go, what? And I remember I beat him up. I beat him up for 2 reasons. A, because I go, you racist Packy. And then the second thing is he got the wrong friggin' race. I go, I'm not a chink. And I beat him up. I'm gonna tell you one thing. We're the best friends to this day. To this day. Different times. And you know what? We would insult each other by race, but the common ground we found was martial arts, house music, and food. And there was more commonalities than differences, man. And I think people just forget that stuff. It's always like, there's so many great themes you talked about in this topic today. I hope people really enjoyed the conversations, but definitely for sure, we need to go back to like a warrior culture. And again, if you think it's basically like sharpening a knife and, getting ready for someone to attack you in an alleyway, that's not really what a warrior culture is all about. Brendan Richardson, who I've trained twice with, I have a lot of respect for.
He's on my bucket list, man.
Oh, man. He's amazing. I trained with him twice, and a really good guy. And he said something, and I'm going to butcher it. Unfortunately, I'm not really good at paraphrasing people. But he says something that martial arts is the hardest art compared to music, painting, writing, poetry, and everything. You never really truly get to express yourself. Ever. Because the true essence of martial arts is to take someone's life. Now, I know this is going to cause a lot of shitstorm with other martial artists, but that was basically back then when we had this conversation. And is it possibly take someone's life? And we don't. We go through kata, hit the bag, we do mock scenarios, we do weapons training, sparring, yada, yada, yada. We never fully express that, thankfully. We never ever have that opportunity. Now, we may do it in sports. That's what the Olympics is all about. And we have Muay Thai competitions, boxing competitions, grappling competitions, et cetera, which bring us close to that feeling, all right, close to that simulation. We don't really get to express it to the fullest. Knowing that, what do we get from martial arts?
Oh my
We
God,
get the intangible stuff from martial arts, focus, grit, determination, fall 7, get up 8, that goal-setting determination, that hunger to keep going. We get tapped out, we keep going on no matter what. We make great friends. We share ideas. We agree to disagree. We get tapped out and we're friends. We shake hands at the end of the bout. Where are you going to find that? Where are you going to, you're never going to find that in a lot of industries and a lot of arts. We may not be able to express our art to the fullest capacity, but I tell you right now, we have a lot of other attributes that we give to people that people don't realize about the martial arts.
Life skills.
Life skills, we do. Think about all my great friends who have beaten me up and I've beaten them up through the martial arts. And I respect them, first and foremost, because they're my friend. And I respect them, secondly, because they're martial artists and they may have tapped me out. But first and foremost, they're my friend. At the beginning, I feared them and I wanted to beat them and I tapped them out. Sean Tyler. Sean Tyler's actually one of my good friends. We met in the finals in a grappling tournament and I beat him. And we're the best of friends. You know what I mean? Yeah, a great guy, a great ambassador of the martial arts. I don't hold it against him. He doesn't hold it against me that he lost to me. Even though at one time he did an illegal knee on my head during the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournament. But he basically did a Petro Yan on me, man. So basically he did one of those techniques and it was cool because he pulled the gi over my head. Very good tactic. He pulled the gi over my head and as we're struggling for a takedown, he accidentally kneed me in the face. I'm just joking. He did accidentally knee me in the face. But great technique and everything. Hockey fighting and Muay Thai and a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournament. But where are you going to get that?
Nowhere.
Where are you going to get that? I think martial arts is really essential for a lot of people on a lot of different levels. I really do.
One thing my dad told me I'll never forget, never, is he told me, he's like, Mark, you'll never really know a man until you fight him. And you'll never really know a woman until you sleep with her.
I agree.
You cut out there for a second.
Yeah, you're back. Go ahead.
I said, you'll never know a man until you fight him, and you never know a woman until you sleep with him, because those are the two most primitive and primal things that we do, that there's no lying in it.
There's no lie. I totally agree, man. Your soul is bared in both scenarios. You know what I mean? People just don't get it. And if you're thinking about doing martial arts and it sounds really barbaric, I'm going to tell you to the listeners here, I'm not advocating that you fight to the death. I'm not saying you should get into a ring and spar and stuff like that. There's a lot to be gained from even going through some of the hard drills. Some of the drills at combat arts or even out of schools will make you feel like you're getting close to death because they're really hard, right? They're almost not the SEAL teams, but they're going to break you. But when you do that with friends and that are also suffering, it brings you together.
Yes, it does.
Really, really amazing.
I have no friends like the friends I've sparred and just trade hard with. It's a different relationship. We've gone about an hour and a half. I don't know how much longer you want to go, but I just want to ask you a couple more questions and then you can tell me.
We can go for about a few more minutes.
So somebody who has inspired a lot of people, Joey, who inspired you? Who were the people you looked to emulate? Who are the people that impacted your life growing up?
Wow. You know what? I got to say this straight off the bat. People would think it was Bruce Lee in my era. It's not really, actually.
Is it Rick James?
No. Guru Daniel Santo.
Yeah.
I've been lucky to just train with him through seminars and everything, with Guru Dan and everything. I gotta say that guy's an inspiration.
Yeah, man.
And I love him for a lot of different reasons. I love him for the myth and the stories from my other instructors have told me. I love the fact how he's not just a martial artist, he's a historian and ambassador for the martial arts.
Fuck yeah.
He has traveled the world over twice given his knowledge of all different various martial arts to the world, he gives willingly. He never makes you feel like outside the circle. I've been very lucky to sit down with him during dinner time and just have casual conversation with him. And he never makes you feel like an outsider. He never like sits on his high horse and everything.
No.
That's one instructor that I wish to emulate and be like one day, and he's still training in the martial arts. I think he's doing Cambodian kickboxing and something like that. And somebody lately posted a video of him doing a handstand on.
Yeah, man, it's crazy.
84 years old.
It's crazy.
84 years old, something like that. He picked up, I think, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It is in his 50s.
And doing Sistema.
Yeah, imagine picking up a brand new martial art as a white belt. I'll be in your 50s, right? That's amazing, right?
Yeah.
I have to say that as one person that has really, really motivated me to be an ambassador for the martial arts and be a good human being. I look at other people like Burton Richardson. I gotta say from afar, I love the message he gives for Jeet Kune Do on basically how you have to apply it. I do. Like, I've only been able to train with him a couple of times. I had informal conversations with him once in a while. But man, like, I love the fact that he's really trying to apply his JKD and he's doing it successfully.
Yeah.
Like, he really puts it to the test.
I love his BJJ for the street.
Oh, yeah. I know. It's amazing. Sifu Larry Hartzell, rest in peace and everything. Rest in power. I love training with him because, like, he was pretty much straight up. If you sucked, you sucked. And, he applied his stuff like as a doorman, as a bodyguard and everything. So he was like one of the pioneers for grappling in JKD and everything. Yeah. So I have to thank him for that because, like, to be honest, if he wasn't really a big component of grappling for the JKD, I probably wouldn't have picked up Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It forced me to look at grappling as a serious component of my martial arts, lifestyle. But definitely for sure, I love the casual conversation with him. I got to visit him and stay at his house for a bit and train with him and everything. So I really like that a lot. All my instructors have left like a piece of them in me. Professor Salim Asli, Crew Mady, Jean-Paul lately, my Krav Maga coach and everything. Boxing coaches, like, Rafael Delgado, he trained me for a little bit. He's a great boxing coach. Claude Patrick trained me in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Amir Yafawi, Brad Varsava. All these guys have left something in me, you know what I mean, when it comes to grappling. I'm training right now with like some different people and everything, and they have a lot to offer me that I really, really love. It's great stuff. Guru Mark Denny, from Full Contact Stick Fighting. All these guys, like, they gave me a little bit of piece of the martial arts, and I love them for various different reasons, right? One thing that I have to say, like, I know it sounds really hokey though, but I have to say honestly, my students really do inspire me. When I look at my students, I hope they're going to be better than me, to be honest, right? And I do strive for them to be better than me. That's always my goal. So like guys like you, Sylvester, Dave, Edgar, these guys once trained with me, and even Amir, these guys all trained with me, they're better than me. But what I like looking at them is how they've developed as human beings, how they're always trying to improve themselves and better themselves. If I can get that message across to them, that really inspires me, because when I see guys like you getting better, I'm like envious, jealous, and also too, like, I need to get better too. And that's so cool, because like, that's the way it should work. Yeah. We should always try to make each other better, to raise each other's level.
Yeah.
And that's really, really key. And to me, that should be applicable to life. You may be a mentor to someone, and hopefully they got better than you.
Hopefully.
And if they got better than you, then they're going to raise your game, and then maybe you'll get better than them.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is, right? That's
it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, at the heart of martial arts, I remember Eric Paulson was talking about that. Eric Paulson was saying that, you may grapple with someone that's lesser skilled than you. Your job is to make them better than you. Mm-hmm. Make them a better grappling partner, make them a better sparring partner. And I got to test it. I agree with that. There's some people that I grapple with that may not be as skilled as me or physically strong as me. And my job is to make their experience a good experience and make them better. And I can tell you one thing, they come back and beat me later on. I'm like, damn it. You learned my secrets.
What I fucking do?
I did, like, I gave them the secrets. And now they counter my counters. I'm like, that's pretty cool. And now I got to beat them, so to speak, right? Beat them in good sport. And then that's the way it is. We raise our levels, right? So like, I have particular individual instructors. Definitely for sure, Guru Dan is like, right up there. But when it comes to like one of my best loves is my students, honestly, because they really teach me a lot. I watch my students sometimes. I go, man, that guy's technique hurts my eyes. Like it's really a worst technique. And then later on,
It's like, wow.
man, that guy's a friggin' killer. He's a killer. And I tell him, I go, man, like, dude, not so much a long time ago, your technique, but now you look really, really good. And, with any skill, if you guys are not gonna do martial arts, but you can do anything in life, it's a small, everyday transition. And if you commit to it, if you follow through, you're going to get better.
Can't get any worse.
You may not realize that you check the mirror, you check the scale every day, and you're like, I'm not getting anywhere, right? But you are making differences. You're making changes, And then one day your friend's gonna be like, holy crow, you're a different human being. And I get to see that every day. I got to see that every day in the martial arts dojo where people transformed, not just only physically, as a character. Like guys who are shy would walk up to me and they would insult me. They go, hey, crew, like you need to shave, you're looking old. And I go, what the hell? This guy was quiet. This guy would never, he would hide behind the class.
It's your fault.
He's got the balls to come up and talk to me like that.
It's your fault.
And I would laugh because I think, honestly, that's pretty damn cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
because man. They're getting better and they're changing like that caterpillar to butterfly. It's pretty, I get to see that. I really get to see that change. Most industries, you don't get to see that. Yeah. You rarely see that. If someone challenges you, you fire them. If they're incompetent, you fire them. I have to stay with them. I'm stuck with them sometimes. And I go, man, I got to make this guy better. I got to make this guy a better human being. So I have to say, honestly, Mark, I know it may sound like a cheesy answer, but I do love my students.
Real people.
I love seeing them improve. And to them, when I see them get better, I'm like, man, I got to get better. I gotta make myself better to service them better.
So I'm gonna wrap it up there, Joey. But I'm telling you, man, I could sit here and listen to you. Oh, you cut out, of course. Are you there? You there? Can you hear me?
Yeah. That's the ninja part of me. The nightcrawler part of me.
So I'm gonna wrap it up. But I just want to say, I thank you personally for the positive effect you've had on my life, on my growth. It's affected my family, my friends, and my students, and I'm forever grateful for business sense, personal life, martial arts. I could always count on you to tell me exactly what I needed to hear, and that was truth. And I really appreciate everything you've done for me. You've watched me grow. I've been training with you since 2007, and like I said, combat arts is the best thing that ever happened to me. I grew up there. That's what I tell people. I grew up there, and the what you do for the community and everybody else is what inspired me to be a teacher. And before I leave, I'm just gonna do one quick story. The moment I noticed that teaching was the levels of teaching, I'll never forget. I was in a Muay Thai class, and it was like over 30 people.
Uh-huh.
And I remember like, how the fuck does this guy, because I think at the time I just started teaching my program that you were helping me, the Sanchao.
Cool.
And I had like fucking 10 guys in my class. And I remember at the time I was like, I got to watch it. And I remember just watching you. I'm working with a new person. So I have the luxury of like, I'm paying attention, but I'm really paying attention to how you run a class, because that's how I learn, right? And I'm watching you. And I remember watching you. It's like a fucking shark in the water. And I'll never forget you. You're on one side of the room, and even though you're watching this person's technique, it's like you're listening to the combination. And when you hear the shit is off, it's like you start walking around until you find where you found it. And I was just like, fuck, that's the next level. That's the next level. And it's like, wow, there's so much to learn about teaching and using my senses and how to communicate with certain people. And like I said, I learned those things from you. as well as other instructors, but you were my main instructor for many years,
Thanks, brother.
and I translate that into my life, and I'm in a better place for it. So thank you so much for your done to community, and I'm so happy to hear you say that combat arts, it can't die from brick and mortar. That really gives me a fire knowing that it's never going to go away. So thank you so much. Thank you so
Yeah,
much,
thank you.
Sifu, for doing this, and hopefully we can do it again. All right,
For
thank you for
sure.
everything.
Anytime, man. Thank you for having me on again.
Take care.
Take care.